Thank you, Prabhuji. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jayo Radha Madhava कुंज बिहारी। जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा जयो राधा वल्लभ श्री राधे, जयो प्रभुपदा श्रीला प्रभुपदा, प्रभुपदा श्रीला प्रभुपदा। हरि बोल हरि बोल, हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल। निताय गौरा हरि बोल। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to His Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini. Hare Krishna. Welcome all of you for today's discussion of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. We are reading from Canto 6, Chapter 11, verse number 22. Is that? Verse number 22. The chapter is titled as The Transcendental Qualities of Vritrasura. Pumsam kilaikanta dhiyam svakanam Yasam padodvi vibhuma vrasayam Narati yadvesha udvega adhir Mada kalirvyasanam samprayasaha Pumsam kilaikanta dhiyam svakanam Yasam padodvi vibhuma vrasayam Narati yadvesha udvega adhir Mada kalirvyasanam samprayasaha Pumsam kilaikanta dhiyam svakanam Yasam padodvi vibhuma vrasayam Narati yadvesha udvega adhir Mada kalirvyasanam samprayasaha Prabhuji. Sam kalaikanta dhyam svakanam Yasam padodvi vibhuma vrasayam Narati yadvesha Mada kalirvyasanam samprayasaha Mataji. Sam kalaikanta dhiyam rasanam Yasam Mada kalirvyasanam Pumsam kilaikanta dhiyam svakanam Yasam padodvi vibhuma vrasayam Narati yadvesha udvega adhir Mada kalirvyasanam samprayasaha Pumsam, unto persons, killer, certainly, ekantadheyam, who are advanced in spiritual consciousness. Svakanam, who are recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his own. Yaha, which, sampadaha, opulences, dvivi, in the upper planetary systems, bhumau, in the middle planetary systems, rasayam, and in the lower planetary systems, na, not, rati, bestows, yat, from which, dveshaha, envy, udvegaha, anxiety, adihi, mental agitation, madaha, pride, kalihi, quarrel, vyasanam, distress due to loss, samprayasaha, great endeavor. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Persons who fully surrender at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always think of His lotus feet are accepted and recognized by the Lord as His own personal assistants or servants. The Lord never bestows upon such servants the brilliant opulences of the upper, lower, and middle planetary systems of this material world. When one possesses material opulence in any of these three divisions of the universe, his possessions naturally increase his enmity, anxiety, mental agitation, pride, and belligerence. Thus one goes through much endeavor to increase and maintain his possessions, and he suffers great unhappiness when he loses them. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 4.11, the Lord says, Ye yathamam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushyaah partha sarvashah. As devotees surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. Both Indra and Vritrasura were certainly devotees of the Lord, although Indra took instructions from Vishnu to kill Vritrasura. The Lord was actually more favorable to Vritrasura because after being killed by Indra's thunderbolt, Vritrasura would go back home, back to Godhead, whereas the victorious Indra would rot in this material world. Because both of them were devotees, the Lord awarded them the respective benedictions they wanted. Vritrasura never wanted material possessions, for he knew very well the nature of such possessions. To accumulate material possessions, one must labor very hard, and when he gets them, he creates many enemies, because this material world is always full of rivalry. If one becomes rich, his friends or relatives are envious. For ekanta bhaktas, unalloyed devotees, Krishna therefore never provides material possessions. A devotee sometimes needs some material possessions for preaching, but the possessions of the preacher are not like those of karmi. A karmi's possessions are achieved as a result of karma, but those of devotees are arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead just to facilitate his devotional activities. Because a devotee never uses material possessions for any purpose other than the service of the Lord. The possessions of a devotee are not to be compared to those of a karmi. Om ajnana timirandhasya jnananjana shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishna Vamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudinat. So Hare Krishna. So we are reading a wonderful section of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, which is, if you really see the story, we are spectators of this great battle between a demon and a devata. In essence, Bhagavatam actually shakes our perceptions of material life because it's a demon. And here, the demon is preaching the devata. It's quite interesting, actually. That is why Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, from the onset, it's a very bewildering book for many, actually. And Bhagavatam itself declares in the second verse of its own, Dharma projita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayonmulanam Śrīmad Bhāgavata Mahamuni krite kim va parair ishvaraha sadyo hridyavaruddha tetra kritibihi shushrusubhis tatkshanat. It actually rejects all materially motivated religion. So that's why Bhagavatam is very, very sometimes bewildering, even for those who follow the Vedic path. Because in this book, you will see, as we read through this, Bhagavatam clearly distinguishes between mundane realities and eternal truths. You see? In a book, Prabhupada has written a small book called, well, of course, it's a compilation of Prabhupada's lectures. It's called as Civilization and Transcendence. In that book, there's a chapter called Everyday Realities and Eternal Truths. It's quite interesting, the chapter title. Everyday Realities and Eternal Truths. See? Bhagavatam begs us to contemplate on these terminologies. What are everyday realities and what is an eternal truth? Usually an everyday reality, if we see the next verse, it's all about everyday realities. Traivargikayasya. It's talking about the purpose of human existence. Be happy, have a nice house, maintain a good health. You see, all of this is everyday realities, which is not rejected, but Bhagavatam's main focus is to focus on transcendental truths or eternal truths, not on mundane realities. So therefore, this book is quite bewildering. And here, it's even more bewildering because on one side, there is a ghastly demon. He looks quite ghastly in one sense. But he's preaching transcendental truths to a devata who is very sober to look at and who is very opulent, who is nicely dressed and everything. And he's king. And yet, he is getting preached by such a person. So Bhagavatam destroys material conceptions completely. It shakes us. And many times we will see, despite you will see living entities or devotees dedicated to the Lord, they are dedicated to the Lord. In this case, it was Chitraketu. He was a great devotee of the Lord. Within a fraction of a second, he was cursed to become a demon. And you'll see this book is galore with such evidences. When you think of Draupadi, which are the two instances you remember? When you talk of Draupadi, what two instances of Draupadi you will remember? Draupadi was a great devotee of the Lord. But when you remember Draupadi, what do you remember? One episode of Draupadi which you remember. Immediately what comes to our mind? Correct. That she was disrobed in the public assembly. Great devotee of the Lord. And what's the second episode you remember? What comes to our mind? Durvasa Muni visiting him. Visiting the Pandavas in the forest. So it's quite bewildering. And Durvasa Muni brings a lot of his sadhus who don't eat 1 or 2 morsels of rice. They eat mountains of rice. And he had bought 60,000 of them to eat. You see? So Draupadi was shocked. And every time she was praying to Krishna. If you remember many devotees, in King Indradumna, what was he doing? He was nicely worshipping the Supreme Lord. He was worshipping the Supreme Lord. He was doing his proper devotional service. But what happened? Who came inside his puja room? Agastya Muni came. He got angry that he did not respect him because the sadhu had entered. But actually it was not that he was disrespectful. He was just absorbed in his puja. Therefore Agastya Muni cursed him to become an elephant in his next life. So you see reversals after reversals, reversals after King Parikshit Maharaj. He was there to protect dharma. The next minute Shringi curses him to be dead, to be bitten by a snake. But you will see in all these episodes, King Indradumna, Narada Muni, Parikshit Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj, you will see Draupadi, Kunti Devi, the Pandavas, all of them had the same story. What is that story? Reversals after reversals. And yet they are glorified. And in this case, Chitraketu, who's Vritrasura, and he's being glorified here. If King Ambarisha would have been a nice devotee in his house, worshipping the Lord, we would have never known, unless Durvasa Muni had, attacked him and tried to kill him, actually. So therefore, Bhagavatam has a unique way of giving us the tenets of the ultimate purpose of life, which is becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. And in this case, Vritrasura is one. Sometimes when you give this book to materialistic people, they will say your book is very fatalistic. It's very fatalistic, so we don't want it. We want happy ending books, you see. As a child, we used to remember when you read this book, in the end they will put a cloud and they'll say, they lived happily ever after. That's all, the book ends there. See, but actually the material world, it never happens like that. It never happens. There is no ending that is happy. Because what is the end of this material life? What finishes everything in this material life? Death. And death is not happy. Death is not pleasing to anyone, actually. It's not pleasing to anyone. So, the stark reality and a reminder of material life is brought out by Śrīmad Bhāgavatam at all times. But Bhagavatam doesn't stop there. Bhagavatam also gives us the solution, as Mathura Manohar Prabhu was saying last week, that art of living has to be learned by learning art of dying. And Bhagavatam lays that out. We have to learn the art of dying. When we know the art of dying, then art of living becomes very easy. But if we reject the art of dying, then art of living is just another bubble on the ocean. You see? So Bhagavatam is always like that. Now, how much gratitude we have to Srila Prabhupada to give us this book. When the whole world used to sleep, Prabhupada used to be awake in the middle of the night translating these books for us, actually. Otherwise, think about it. If we do not know some Sanskrit, we would not never have understood if the book wasn't there. And if you have, these books are usually in Sanskrit. And you have to understand the Sanskrit and understand it in reality. If you read the verse, the translation, and then understand Prabhupada's purports, they are so important to understand the concepts, because only understanding Sanskrit or just the translation is not enough. Prabhupada's ecstatic purports have saved us. So our gratitude is to His Divine Grace Prabhupada, who sacrificed his own life, his sleep for us to write these books, and which is continuing to transform despite half a century has passed. So much indebted we are for him that he has given us this book. Otherwise, we would have probably been rotting in this material world, carried away with the material desires. Now, coming back to the thread of this chapter, what has happened, just to give a brief, if someone's not following, there is a battle ensuing between Vritrasura and Devata, and Indra, of course. The Devatas are winning. The side of the demons, they are running away, and Vritrasura is trying to tell them, come back and fight. In all of this, we see Indra is trying to kill Vritrasura, and Vritrasura has destroyed many of the weapons of Indradev, because Indradev has been shooting some weapons, and just Vritrasura is destroying them one after the other. But then Vritrasura is insisting Indradev now to say, use that which Vishnu has asked you to use, the thunderbolt, because that will finish me. Because this is the faith Vritrasura has. Indradev has been instructed personally by Vishnu. Now they have already killed Dadichi, got the bones, they have already made the thunderbolt, and still Indradev is not confident that Vishnu has. He's not still confident that the Lord has given me the weapon and I'll win. He's not confident. He's still doubtful in his mind. Vritrasura, don't be doubtful, that is going to kill me. You go ahead, use that weapon now. So you see, we can analyze the consciousness of Indra and consciousness of Vritrasura. If you go a little deeper to understand the consciousness of these two personalities. And of course, this is a very esoteric episode because both are devotees. Anirudh Prabhu was also mentioning that in this case, there are two devotees fighting, and it's a war. It's a war to kill each other, actually. So there are tattvic principles that we can take from this. There are philosophical principles that we can deduce from such an episode, and there can be practical applications as devotees, as practitioners, for us also. Of course, we will not take out swords and try to fight with each other. But how does it apply to us as devotees in our daily life, in our practicing life? That also can be drawn out of these episodes. That's what Bhagavatam does. And in fact, Prabhupada writes that in the last section of the purport. So if you see Indra has already got a benediction from the Lord, but yet what is his state of consciousness? How do you think Indra is feeling? He is fearful. He's afraid. He's afraid of whom? He's afraid of Vritrasura. Now let us take a step back and understand why is someone afraid. And is Vritrasura afraid? Vritrasura is not afraid if you really see. He knows that that weapon is going to kill him. He knows that. He's going to be dead. But yet he's not afraid. It's quite interesting, you see. The consciousness of Indra is very fearful. Although he knows he's got the weapon, he knows he's going to kill him, yet he's not able to be fearless. He's afraid of that situation. On the other hand, Vritrasura knows he will be killed, and yet he is fearless. It's quite a stark episode that Bhagavatam is outlaying. It's a nice movie if someone directs this in Hollywood. It's a beautiful movie, and if someone can portray this consciousness. In fact, if we contemplate what gives us fear in the first place, why are we afraid? Are living entities afraid in this material world? Everybody's afraid. Starting from an ant till Indradev, everybody's fearful of something or the other. It's only in the human form of life that we get a chance to overcome this fear. But are humans trying to overcome this fear that we see around us? We are, you see. Science is trying hard, is it not? Science is trying to tell us, don't worry. We will keep you ever young. The cosmetic industry will say, you'll always look young. We will give you some Botox injections so that you will never get wrinkles on your face. You see, science always tries to keep you young and makes you, don't be afraid. Science is there, will protect you. Time and again, they'll publish an article to say, in 20 years' time, science will find a way to reverse aging. Have you read these articles? We are almost there. 20 years, we will make sure that we will never age. We will live eternally. You see, science gives us hope for what? Against fear. But Kapila Deva gives a very nice, interesting teaching to his mother, Devahuti. He says, Rupa Bhedaspadam Divyam Kala Ityabhidhiyate Bhutanam Mahat Adinam Yatabhinna Drisham Bhayam. He says, time factor who causes transformation of various material manifestations is another feature of the Supreme Lord Himself. Somebody is looking at the mirror, every day they see they're getting old. That brings fear into them. Why are people afraid when they become old? Many people are, actually. They're afraid of old age. I know one I was sitting when I was in London, sitting in a hair salon. In hair salon there are a lot of magazines thrown. I was reading a magazine, and usually it will be magazines about film stars, movie stars, and rock stars. There was one lady who was a rock star. She was so afraid of her old age. This is an explanation of her husband, of her partner, saying he got so freaked out by her because she was so afraid. She used to not sleep in the bed. You know where she used to sleep? Guess. Take a guess. She used to sleep in a bathtub. You know why? Take a guess. She was filling the bathtub with anti-aging cream. So she was freaked out so much that she's getting old. And looking at that, this man was getting shocked to say, is she going mad? Sleeping in the bathtub filled with anti-aging cream so that she can not have wrinkles? She's going to become mad. So people are so obsessed. Why? Because Krishna in the form of time brings fear. Fear of what? Fear of old age and disease and death finally. So the living entity knows that I don't have too much time. So let me maximize this life. Interestingly, 10 years back, there was an article in The Age, perhaps. There was a guy who wanted to live his life. So he actually quit his job and he said, I want to do something radical. So he quit his job and started working in a crematorium. Because he said, I want to experience the maximum that can be experienced. So he started working in a crematorium, and work in a crematorium is not easy because there's a stark reality that one has to face of burning bodies. And bodies only of not old people, even children sometimes. So he went through this experience, and this article was an article written by him. So he spent a year in the crematorium going through this harsh reality of life, of burning dead bodies. And in that article, he came to a conclusion. Take a guess of what his conclusion was after actually experiencing such a harsh life working in the crematorium. What would be one's realization after such a life or such an experience? That he's seen dead bodies every day, many dead bodies. There can be only two realizations. Sorry? Death and taxes. Okay. Anyone else? Correct. That's a usual realization. Life is very hard. I'll become a monk. But he got the opposite realization. He said, life is short. Let's enjoy the max. That's what he realized. So he wrote in the end of the article to say, life is too short to be lamenting about. So give your best shot. Enjoy to the max. You see, that is what he realized. So therefore, death bewilders everyone. Everyone. But what one takes out of that determines his consciousness at that point in time, or how he has honed his desires in his life, in his whole life. So Kapila Deva was saying that one who do not see Krishna as time, what happens to them? Yata bhinna drisham bhayam. Fear enters into their hearts. So fear is a symptom of absence of Krishna. One is always fearful because there is no presence of Krishna there. Because as soon as Krishna comes into the heart, swayam bhayam bhibeti. Even fear personified is afraid of such is afraid of fear itself, where Krishna is residing. So in this case, that time factor is causing transformation, and here Indradev is attached to his senses. He wants to become a king. He wants to rule. He doesn't want to lose his comfort. Therefore, he's afraid that if I lose this battle, I will lose becoming a king. So therefore, I can't enjoy my comfort. So therefore, there is fear. Why is there fear? Because his senses is in the center of his enjoyment. So therefore, he's afraid that he will lose that enjoyment. I remember when I was probably 17 years of age, this was in 1992, I never was used to sleep on floor hard. I wanted a soft bed all the time. And I had joined as a naval cadet. When I was in my college, I joined as a naval cadet. And I had to go to a camp. It was a training camp. It was called as, it was a camp organized by the state. So I had gone there as a sailor. So I was a sailor representing my state. So my main concern was, how will I sleep? Because I was used to a soft bed. Now I know I have to sleep on the floor. So what I did, they usually give you a rucksack. So it's a canvas rucksack, and you usually carry on your back. And we usually had our naval boots and our naval dresses, 6 pairs of dresses and things like that. Plus I had to carry a lot of food. It was a camp for 2 months. So then I thought, let me pack my bed. So in those days, we didn't have a yoga mat. This was 92. Of course, at least where I come from, we didn't have. So I packed 3 blankets. I remember still very clearly. I packed 3 blankets, a quilt on top, a quilt on the bottom. So I made sure my bed is soft. So I didn't realize until I sat in the bus. So my dad, of course, dropped me. And I got down the bus in a place called, near Udupi, there's a place called Udyavara, where you have a lot of good backwaters where you can sail, because I was a naval cadet. So our activities were mostly in water. So the bus dropped us early in the morning, 5 a.m. in that place. So I got down with the bus with my rucksack, knowing that I have a soft bed that I have to carry. 500 meters, and we had to go uphill. I still remember that day. After 500 meters of walking, I realized this is very heavy, because I had literally transported the whole bed from my house. I had 3 blankets, 2 quilts, and probably dresses, boots, and food, and everything. After 500 meters, I was sweating, I was hungry, I was weak, and I put the rucksack down, and I started praying to God, oh my God, how long do I have to go? So we started asking they're called as petty officers, PO. So his name was Officer Dogra Sahab. Sir, how far is the camp? He said, not far, not far. So we had already walked a kilometer, and I know by this time I was dragging it on the street. So my rucksack was being dragged. So I remember I was so attached to the bed that after we had to walk for 3 kilometers. By the time we reached that camp, I was flat. I said, I can't take it anymore. My hands were shivering, my legs were shivering, and I was already weak. So it was a stark reminder, just for an arrangement for the bed, I had to go through this. And I was cursing myself to say, why I can't practice to sleep on the floor? I had to bring all of this. I was getting distasteful for my own bed, you see. Then, of course, I didn't do it. I was so happy that I could lay on my bed. So the whole 2 months of my camp, I had a separate arrangement for myself. Whereas I could see a lot of my co-cadets, they were easily sleeping on the floor. And I used to think, how can they sleep like that? I need a soft bed. So the more we get attached to our senses, and the more we like to cater to their demands, the more fear sets in, because the loss of that comfort brings us fear. And in this case, Indradev was very afraid of that he will lose that comfort. In fact, Kapiladeva goes to say in the chapter in 329:40 that yad bhayad vati vatoyam suryas tapati yad bhayad varshate devo bhagano bhati yad bhayat. Out of fear of the Supreme Lord, the wind blows. Out of fear of Him, the sun shines. Out of fear of Him, the rain pours forth showers. And out of fear of Him, the host of heavenly bodies shed their luster. So actually, everything is happening because everybody is afraid of the Lord. Not because of the Lord, but because of time in the form. As long as they don't realize that it's the Lord, they're afraid of time, that time is going to finish everything. And therefore, every living entity in this material world is afraid of his existence, that he's going to lose what he has. But now we will take our shift, or we'll focus our camera on Vritrasura now. Vritrasura, although looking demoniac, asuric, he's not at all afraid. His consciousness is quite interesting. We have to understand that Vritrasura is not thinking, Mr. Indra, I am a pure devotee. Come and kill me. I know the Lord is going to protect me. He's not thinking like that. Please don't think that, because it is we as spectators are thinking like that he is a pure devotee. But think about Vritrasura himself. He is not thinking, I am a pure devotee. A pure devotee will never think he is a pure devotee. All he knows that he is a sold out servant of the Lord. That's all he knows. All he knows that is, if Indradev finishes my life, I know my bondage is my body. If this body is finished, then I can dedicate my life to the Lord. This is my last attachment. I am attached to my brother because, of course, he knows that Indradev had killed his brother, so I am here to avenge his death, and that attachment is because I am attached to the body. Vritrasura realizes this. Is it not? His brother is not his eternal brother. His brother is related to his body. So therefore, he is bound because of this body. Vritrasura realizes this truth, that I am not this body. He doesn't think that I am a pure devotee. Prabhupada gives us that in the purports. But he is not thinking he is a pure devotee. All he knows is he is a sold out servant of the Lord. All he knows is the arrangement of the Lord. Now, let us put this thought in contemporary thinking. Let us think that we were all serving a very powerful master. Think about it. We are serving a very powerful master, and we have given our life for him. Day and night I have brought up and serving this master. I have sacrificed my life. And one day I come to know this master has arranged for my death. Think about it. I'm serving this master all my life, and I come to know, oh, this master has sent a weapon through someone to kill me. What do you think our consciousness will be? What do you think our consciousness and our reaction would be to such an incident? Materially speaking, you will see, my God, I've served him all through my life, and this guy wants to kill me. Is it not? Will that not be the first reaction that anybody would get? And look at Vritrasura. All through his life, not lives, he's dedicated his life to Krishna, and here Krishna is arranging for his death. And here Vritrasura is appreciating, glorifying that it is the Lord's nice arrangement. You see, the Lord has a unique way to extract devotion out of his devotees. See, when you're playing with your child, I don't know if you have experienced it, if you lift your child and try to swing him a little hard, what does the child do? What does the child do? Or let's say if you're going in a merry-go-round and you're keeping your child on your lap, what does the child do? He holds you in more tight. Is it not? Why? Because you're putting him in a merry-go-round. So Krishna likes to do that. The more he puts you in difficulties, the more the devotees will hold him tight. To hold me tight, I'll take you through the rough journey. So this is the beautiful way of... Krishna's ways are very strange. He has his own ways of bringing things into devotee's life, you see. So in this case, Krishna has arranged a glorious killing of his own devotee, but on one end he's bewildering the normal mundane thinkers. You see, Indradev is... very interesting line that Prabhupada writes in the purport. Because both of them were devotees, the Lord awarded them their respective benedictions they wanted. Prabhupada ends that sentence with saying, both are devotees. Both are devotees. And do you think the Lord was partial? No, the Lord is not partial, because Krishna is never partial. But Krishna definitely says, Ye yathamam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham. Whatever way you approach me, I will reward accordingly. So therefore, Indra desired kingdom. So therefore you go, have your kingdom. Vritrasura desired the service of Lord Shankarshana. So therefore I'll give you. But how I give you, you give that to me. You leave that to me, Krishna says. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachanah. I will give you the way I will give you. So thereby, by giving this glorious death to Vritrasura, Krishna, if Chitraketu would have been just Chitraketu, we wouldn't have remembered him if it was not Vritrasura. So Krishna has his glorious ways of glorifying his devotees. So just because Vritrasura was given this body, today we are able to glorify the transcendental qualities of this demon devotee, actually. So therefore it's a very unique arrangement. And here we see Vritrasura's consciousness, peeking into Vritrasura's consciousness, the impeccable faith he has on Krishna. Even though Krishna has arranged for his own death, he has so much faith on Krishna that he is doing the best for me. So this is a learning we can hear. Yasya deve parabhaktir yatha deve tatha gurau tasyaite katitha hyartaha prakashante mahatmanah. What do devotees do? If one has unflinching faith in the Lord and the spiritual master, the essence of all Vedic knowledge is revealed unto him. So, in this case, we see Vritrasura's faith was unshaken, despite the Lord has personally arranged his own death. He was not in doubt. Although everything was happening in favor of Indradev, still he was in doubt, you see. And this happens because Indradev is a Sakama Bhakta. Sakama means he's doing mixed devotion. Mixed devotion means I want material comforts, and at the same time, I want to be a devotee of the Lord. Prabhupada used to say, most of the ISKCON devotees will end up in the heaven. Because it is good to become a devotee, but it is in one sense bad to become a Sakama devotee, because Prabhupada writes, he left Indradev to rot in heaven. Prabhupada uses that word, it's quite heavy. He left Indradev to rot in heaven and killed Vritrasura to take him back home, back to Godhead. Parikshit Maharaj, you see, Parikshit Maharaj, many people, there was a usual question that, although, many people don't want to read Bhagavatam, you know why? I got a question from my Bhakti Vriksha, if you read Bhagavatam, a snake will come and bite you in the end. Because Parikshit Maharaj was bitten, you see. So I had this doubt also, and one of a senior devotee clarified, the snake never bit Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj had already left his body after ecstasy. He had already left his body. It was only that the snake came and bit the body of Parikshit Maharaj, not Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj had already left the body before the snake could come. Because such envious people can never touch pure devotees. They cannot bring death to devotees. Parikshit Maharaj is at a level where he can live swa-ichha, yadrachaya. Yadrachaya means by the will of the Lord. So like that, we can see Bhagavatam has strange ways of arrangements. And here, there is also a very important point to understand. Prabhupada, here Vedavyasa writes, the Lord never bestows upon such servants brilliant opulences to the upper, such as upper, lower and middle planetary systems. Rasayam means the lower planetary system, Rasatala, Patala and other lower planetary systems. Why does Krishna do this? And Prabhupada writes this, there is a difference between possessions of a karmi and possessions of a devotee. In the glorious life of Prabhupada, we see he was a businessman, right? And he wanted to preach by earning money in his business. Generally, we think like that. We will earn money and then we will preach. But the Lord finished Prabhupada's whole business completely. He was in so much poverty. Prabhupada was brought into so much poverty that his shirt was torn. He didn't have anything to eat when he used to travel between Vrindavan and Delhi when you read Lilamrita. It was so much poverty stricken. Even when he came to the US, he had $7, 40 rupees in his pocket. But he never spent that 40 rupees. Prabhupada says, I was hearing a lecture from Prabhupada, I had 40 rupees, I have 40 crore now. 40 crores 50 years ago is big money. So Krishna provides opulence by taking away the material opulence and giving him spiritual opulence. So what we see in ISKCON, when we read scores for Prabhupada, we say Lakshmi liberated. Lakshmi liberated means this is the Lakshmi or opulence that we are passing it back to the lotus feet of Krishna. That opulence will not be destructive. But that opulence which is earned due to sense gratification, that will bring all of this. What is that? That will bring dvesha, udvega, madaha, kalir, vyasanam. And the whole human society will do some prayasa. Prayasa means endeavor. Some prayasa means over endeavor. Atyahara. People over endeavor. And because of that, whenever wealth comes, what will come with it? All of this will come. What is that? Envy. Envy is, dvesha is envy. Udvega, anxiety. Envy is a dictating principle in this material world. We see there was a illiterate man who created a majestic company in India. Have you heard of Reliance Industries? So he made a big industry, and it took 2 Harvard graduates to break that industry into 2. His sons broke it down. And then one is envious of the other. You see, material wealth brings envy. Material wealth doesn't only mean money. It also means capabilities. Now, if you bring this principle into devotional service, as practitioners of devotees, when we enter the arena of bhakti, we try to bring this conditioning of material life into devotional service also. sometimes we become envious of other devotees. As long as there is no pleasing of Krishna in the center, I want to do this service because I want to please Krishna. If that consciousness is not there, I want to do this because I want to be better than him. I want to be better than her. In practice of devotional service also, it causes us distress. It causes us anxiety. Then we can never enjoy the bliss of bhakti. Because bhakti has to be done for only one purpose, to please Krishna. Many times devotees say, Prabhu, I'm not able to get peace of mind while I chant. You see, there is a general tendency in almost all religious practices that they think religion is to give us something. Oh God, give us our daily bread. Most of the mundane practice of religion is limited to this concept that religion is to give us something. Religion is not for civilization. That's why if you read the book Civilization and Transcendence, they both are opposite ends of the same stick. Transcendence is a different matter altogether. It's not to be civilized and get established nicely in this material world. Religion is not for that at all. Religion is to get out of this material world and get into transcendence. But many times we take religion to be catering to our material demands. Like for example, chanting gives me a lot of peace of mind. But chanting is not for giving peace of mind. Chanting is to please the Supreme Lord, full stop. Peace of mind could be a byproduct for it, but I should not be chanting desirous of having peace of mind. You see, it's a subtle difference, but it makes a lot of impact on the consciousness when we do the activity. So therefore, Prabhupada highlights that a karmi's possessions are achieved as a result of karma, but for a devotee, Krishna awards. Many times we see Prabhupada, we remember in Prabhupada's Lilamrita, Prabhupada wanted to buy a temple in Dallas, I think, Dallas, Texas. And Prabhupada promises to buy beyond the amount that he has. And his disciples say, Prabhupada, we don't have that much money. You have promised, or whatever, $3,000, $300,000, but we only have 100. We don't have the rest 200. Prabhupada was just unfazed. He said, it's not our temple, it's Krishna's temple. He will manage. And then within a span of a week or so, Amrish Maharaj, who is Albert Ford, he joins and he donates that rest of the money. And Prabhupada says, see, didn't I tell you? It is Krishna's temple. He manages it. Why are you in anxiety? So it's Krishna's temple. So like that, and I should wonder how Anirudh Prabhu manages this temple. It's very difficult. So therefore, to be a to be a devotee and to be a pure devotee is a big ask. First thing. Second thing, to be a famous devotee, it's even more a difficult ask. Then we have to be ready for the tests that Krishna gives us, because it's not easy. We see in the life of many lives, as we said, Indradumna Maharaj, we see Ambrish Maharaj, we see in the case of Haridas Thakur, he had to be whipped in 21 marketplaces. We saw in the life of Prabhupada that he had so many reversals. So this concept of reversals is a very unique thing that Krishna gives us to glorify his devotees, at the same time give us those principles that are the underlying fact of how we can move from Sakama platform, having desires, material desires, to becoming desirous of only Krishna, that I want to only please Krishna and I don't have any other desire. Because the moment we have selfish desires, then we start falling the lowly trap of material desires, and then we start rotting in this material world. What's interesting also is, yesterday Gopa Prabhu was mentioning that how is that right at that point, although he was a demon, he could remember Krishna. He could remember that he wanted to go back to Godhead. This is a unique arrangement of the Lord, is it not? Think about it. Indradumna Maharaj was cursed to become an elephant. But even in the form of an elephant, he could remember Krishna. He could pray to Krishna. You see? Till he entered the water, till the crocodile caught him, he was just engulfed in his comforts of that he's the most powerful elephant, he had his wives, everything. You see? You know when he realizes that he's a devotee? Till he enters the waters, he's still playing around with his wives in the water. If you read Gajendra Moksha's pastime, he's a very powerful elephant. And he's a very happy elephant because everybody is around him. And everybody respects his power and vigor, you see. Until the point the crocodile has caught his feet and the crocodile is pulling him into the water, Right at that point, all his kith and kin who were around him. Gajendra was a very powerful elephant. Everybody were around him. Oh, my husband. Oh, very powerful Gajendra. But the time when the crocodile was sucking him into the water, all his friends were stepping back. They were not trying to save him. They were trying to save themselves. So Gajendra looks back to say, all these people who were appreciating and glorifying me, they are stepping away from me now. So that means they are not mine. So all those who I thought will be mine, they are not mine. They are walking away from me now when I am in distress. Then at that point, he remembers Krishna. What does Gajendra Moksha start with? Om Namo Bhagavate Tasmai. The glorious prayers of Gajendra are recited even today. I don't know, after millions of years. This was in Satyayuga probably. Trikuta mountain, you see. Famous Gajendra recites these prayers. So, Indradumna was brought down to the form of an elephant, recited these famous prayers, and taken back home, back to Godhead. Chitraketu brought down to a demoniac form as Vritrasura, taken back home, back to Godhead. So Krishna has this unique way of giving us a lot of lessons that bhakti is not only for people who are devatas. Bhakti can be done by demoniac people. Bhakti can be done by anyone because it is ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. It is causeless. It is causeless. And Krishna gives that remembrance at that point in time for a devotee. So Krishna here has given remembrance for Vritrasura that your purpose is not here. Your purpose is somewhere else. Just finish your business here and let him win. Let him win. In Bollywood parlance, it is called as Bazigar. You see, one who loses the battle here, but he actually wins the eternal battle. So I'll finish here to say that we have to be having gratitude to Srila Prabhupada for giving us this wonderful Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, which gives us this insights into the consciousness of personalities, historical personalities, not mythological, historical personalities, and how we can apply them in our daily practice of bhakti so that we can move towards the platform of Shuddha Bhakti or pure devotional service, which is the aim, which Rupa Goswami also says, Shuddha Bhakti is what we should all aim for. In fact, Krishna Prema is all we should all aim for, which is just doing everything for Krishna. Whatever we do, yat karosi, yat juhosi, yat asnasi, dadasi yat. Whatever we do, whatever we eat, whatever we enact, whatever we are executing, whatever we give, everything has to be done for pleasing Krishna. Keeping Krishna in the center means only pleasing Krishna. Be it material activities, be it devotional activities. It has to be always bringing up children, for example. It has to be done to say, may this please you, Krishna. May this please you. So when we put Krishna before doing anything, then we will not be waylaid by material desires. But if Krishna is absent, immediately fear will trickle in. And because of that fear, we will get into anxiety, we will get into envy, we will get into jealousy, we will get into vyasanam, means material distress. So this is the trait of this material world. So I'll stop here and I'll thank you all for joining today for Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. If there are any questions, comments or corrections. Yes, Savya. Yeah. It's a wonderful question. And thank you very much, Savya, for every day asking a question, actually. Your questions are very nice, and I should also learn this trait to ask a question. The question is, Krishna, as our eternal Father, does not give us what we want, but He only gives us what is good for us. But in Indra's case, it seems that He gave him what he wanted. Actually, it seems as if what Krishna gave him is not good for him. But actually it is good for him. Make sense? Think again. What does Indra want? Kingdom and opulence. What is good for him? Probably to become a pure devotee. But at this point in time, it is better he gets those opulences. Because Indra is going through a lot of vyasanam. You see, he's getting into great difficulties by the demons. Krishna has a unique way of giving bhakti to devotees. And in this episode, by giving wealth and opulence to Indra, he is purifying him. You getting that? Getting the point? That wealth itself is a curse and at the same time is a teaching to Indra. He will learn the hard way. Does it make sense? Yeah. He wanted it and Krishna fulfilled it also. Although it might not be temporarily good for him, but on the long run it will be good for Indra. Because this wealth only will cause him distress, and this wealth only will give him the idea of renunciation. For example, if you want to eat rasgullas, the more your mother tells you not to eat, you will have more desire to eat. But what suppose your mother gives you 30 rasgullas to eat? After you eat that 30 rasgullas, the 31st you will say, no, I don't want it. Is it not? So there's a nice way to teach Indra, okay, you want it, you take it. And he'll take, and at one point in time he'll think, I don't want anymore. Krishna, I don't want this material. I don't want to be in heaven. Please take me back. So there are different ways how Krishna purifies, based on the deserving capacity and the swabhava of the jiva, the nature of the jiva. So it's not that he will give pure devotional service to everyone, you see, like that. But if you take a step back and see, Chitraketu also was a devotee of the Lord. He could have taken him back to Godhead, but the Lord punished him to become a demon, you see. So the Lord gives us what we deserve in unique ways. But which way he gives it to all of us, we do not know. That is up to Krishna. Krishna is Swarat. Tene Brahma Hridayadi Kavaye. So he is Swarat. So he is independent. So he has got unique ways to purify us. So in this case, he is, because Indradev is a devotee, he is getting purified. But he is getting purified by giving him wealth. So he will get purified. Eventually he will get purified. Right? He will understand about his morbid afflictions, that he is afflicted to this making wealth and comforts. And he'll come to the point to say, I don't want this anymore. Because if he does not give him that, I'll give you a beautiful example. There was a disciple of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur. His desire was, he wanted to leave his body in Mayapur. He also had a very old mother. He wanted to take care of his mother. So he had two desires. One is, I want to take care of my mother, I want to take care of my mother, I want to take care of my mother. But he also wanted to leave his body in Mayapur. So, when he wanted to, let me remember the story. So when he was in Mayapur, he wanted to serve his mother, but his mother somehow passed away. He couldn't go when his mother passed away. So then his thinking process changed that, I couldn't serve my mother, but at least I'll leave my body in Mayapur. But then he had a big debilitating disease, and he knew that he's leaving his body. He's about to leave his body. Right then, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur asks him, his mother had not passed. I don't remember the exact story, but then he says, you have to leave Mayapur and go to your mother or parents. You just have to go and visit them. He says, Guru Maharaj, I'm about to leave my body. You're asking me to go now? I want to leave my body in Mayapur. He says, no, my order is you have to leave. Leave from Mayapur. And this devotee sits in the train and he is traveling away from Mayapur and he leaves his body in midway. When he's out of Mayapur, he leaves his body in the train. Many of his Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples get bewildered. He was about to leave his body. You could have allowed him to leave in Mayapur. Why did you ask him to leave Mayapur and go? Then Saraswati Thakur says, if he was in Mayapur and he would have left his body, he would have thought, I couldn't be there when my mother left my body. There may be chances. But now because I asked him to leave Mayapur, he would have thought, what suppose if I leave my body now if I'm not in Mayapur? And if he would have left his body thinking that, he will go back home back to Godhead. So it doesn't matter where you're physically present, it matters where your consciousness is present. Make sense? So in that sense, for Indradev, giving him wealth will purify him. For Vritrasura, being killed by Indradev will purify him. So Krishna has this very unique arrangements. And we have to see that unique arrangement behind the scenes. Make sense? Thank you for that beautiful question. Yes. Yes.
And then when they go to this lady, a poor lady's house, only has like a cow. Krishna says, I hope your cow dies.
Yes.
And then Rajmani asks that why did you kill her cow while you just gave her aristocratic birth of Krishna said that because I want to take away whatever she had left so then she can remember me while I wanted to make the aristocratic more into Maya.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. That's a nice story. I remembered that story when Sevya asked that question actually. So Krishna sometimes gives bhakti by pravritti marg, sometimes by nivritti. By taking away things. Krishna gives bhakti by taking away something that a devotee has. Krishna gives bhakti to someone by giving too much to him. And therefore he will struggle, suffer, anxiety, stress, and eventually maybe after many lifetimes he will come back to his consciousness that I don't want this path. But it's a long-winded path. Therefore, pravritti marg is sometimes dangerous. That's what Prabhupada said. Sometimes all our devotees might end up in heaven because most of us are doing sakama bhakti. Although we might say we are earning, especially for grihasthas, we may say I'm earning, but I'm using my earnings in Krishna's service. But majority we are using for our sense gratification only. I remember one of the devotees was asking this question to His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. Anandandan Prabhu was asking. So, how do we come out of this consciousness that, or how do we put a stop that actually, no, I have to use everything in Krishna's service. What is the check for me? He was asking this question. So thank you for sharing that. Right? Thank you. Thank you everyone. Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.